Laurie, you should probably take the lead on this because you're our lead reviewer for Synapse. So.
For Synapse, okay. Well, I will just put my cards on the table then and say I really, really love it, and I think it may be my favourite PSVR2 game so far.
Shit.
Big words.
Yeah, I feel like I need to finish it. I need to keep playing it and finish it before I can say for sure. But it feels to me like this is the first big killer app exclusive game that they've been waiting for. I really can't wait to see how well it lands and what other people think of it. But for me, it has a moment earlier in the game. You do a few runs and you unlock certain things in the skill tree. And early on, you unlock something which is one of those real moments in video games, one of those aha moments things that you'll remember doing for the rest of your time you play video games. And it's just, you feel so diabolically powerful and you just let out a laugh, just that an evil laugh that I just let out involuntarily. It's just like, where enemies were kept getting you, or they were cut, you unlock something that just absolutely transforms that power dynamic, and you're like the hunter becomes the hunted, and it's just, you just feel so powerful and it's so good and it's so much fun. It's such a fun mechanic, and like I say, it doesn't happen very often where you just have you can sort of reach out your hand. You feel like you're in the Matrix or something. You know, when like in the Matrix when Neo gets his powers at the end of it, and then he's just like, hold on a minute, I don't need to be scared of these agents anymore, and he can just turn bullets right around and fire them at them. It's like that, where you can just pick up an enemy and just launch them off a cliff, and they go flying, and they're like, and they will react so pleasingly to that as well. They were like, "What is this devilry?" Or like, "Oh my god, what's he doing?" It's like, quick, help me! It's just the reactions are so. You're like, ha, yeah, you better run. It's great. I just love that so much, and for that alone, I just couldn't stop playing it, just because it never got bored. But even before that point, just to rewind a bit. So the game starts off as a very brief intro. You are just on an island. Straight away, you realise, like, God, this is a good-looking game.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, really sharp, clean, good-looking game. Black and white with little colourful touches here and there. And you start off. The premise of it is that you are an agent working for some intelligence agency, and another member of the agency has gone rogue and is plotting a terrorist attack, and he's been captured by the agency, and he's got all the details in his head of what this terrorist attack is going to be. So you need to infiltrate his mind to break through and get his secrets. Now, this guy being some ex-colonel, war military Solid Snake type character, when you enter his mind, it's manifested as a battlefield, and you're having to break through all these waves of enemies that are increasingly tough. And as you get through the barriers of his psyche, you encounter harder and harder enemies. And when you're in this space, you're in his mind. He's taunting you. Your handler is patches in as well, can talk to you. And these two are played by David Hayter and Jennifer Hale, played brilliantly well. There's a real good dynamic, and when the colonel hears your handler for the first time and realizes who it is, it's like, oh no, it's you. And you can tell they've got history, which you're all kind of just all oblivious to start off with, and so you realize there's this deeper story and this deeper history, and all is not quite what it seems, because you'll start off and it's like the colonel, he's the baddie, but then I don't know. I obviously haven't had all the story yet because it doles it out over each multiple runs. But you get the sense straight away that maybe all is not what it seems here, or maybe the Colonel isn't. It's not quite as black and white. Ironically, game being black and white, it's not all as black and white as it initially seems. I don't know for sure. Just can't be a spoiler because I don't know. But just I get the sense that actually there's going to be more to this. It's going to be deeper. So the story of it is really great. I think anyone that played and is a fan of Metal Gear Solid and that kind of ethos of, you're a soldier on the battlefield, and it very much captures that whole themes and the ideas, and with the same voice cast. And when you hear him taunting you he sounds, it's just like you've got some sort of mad version of Solid Snake on the talking to you over the radio. It's great. It's a real, for PlayStation long-time PlayStation fans that have got that history with PlayStation and Metal Gear Solid 1, I think it's great playing this now on the hardware, and that for me really resonated. So yeah, and that whole kind of Inception element to it, it's just such a cool idea for a video game where you are entering someone's mind, and then in that dreamscape, basically, you just have these powers and things can just behave differently to what they do in the real world. It's such a clever concept for a game, and I'm surprised we haven't seen it more.
The power, just touching on that for a second. So that power that you mentioned, that kind of, you said that's the big aha moment that kind of opens the game up to you. How long did it take you to unlock that? How many sort of runs in was it?
Well, it's pretty. The game, and this is one of the things I like about it as well, is there's 2 skill trees, and you earn skill points by doing cool shit in the game, basically. So, and that it explains it as there's a gameplay reason for it. It's like the more aligned you are with the Colonel, the more badass you are in battle, like the Colonel was or is, the more access to his mind and the more control you have over it. So it's a really great idea. So the more stunts you pull off, the more sort of cool things, if you can catch an enemy grenade and throw it back at them, that gets you points, and so it accumulates. And if you pause the game, you can see all the things you're building points towards, and sometimes you pop things that you don't even realize you're building points towards as well. So it starts off simple, just kill 30 enemies, which you'll do over 2 or 3 runs, and I think it's quite generous in that will give you, if you do that, it gives you 1 or 2, or I think there's some of them gives you up to 6 skill points. It can be quite generous for the more kind of harder to achieve stuff. So it's almost like an achievement system in the game, and it does pop a trophy every time you get one as well. Alex, you'll be pleased to hear lots of trophies popping all the time. But
I think it was Ben's ears that picked up more than mine now, to be fair.
Okay. So you get these points, and then you can spend them in the skill tree. So to some extent, it depends on how well you're playing it, but you can just grind it out. If you're really rubbish at the game, you can start a game, and I'm sure you can kill 5 or 10 people before they manage to kill you. It's not that hard. I mean, if you can't do that, then you're probably not the game for you, to be honest. You can learn. You can grab onto cover and you can duck down it. So you just need to stay under cover and just pop up. You can hear when the enemies are kind of reloading or take a break and shooting, so you can pop up and shoot them. So if you do that and complete the first couple of levels 2 or 3 times, you will unlock some stuff, and that will give you some points to put into the skill tree. And on the skill tree, you've got 3 categories. You've got one around, I don't know the names of them, but the one's around the weapons, and you can unlock different and more powerful weapons and dual wielding weapons, and the ability to carry 2 weapons and swap them around. So there's one dedicated to weapons. There's one dedicated to opening up, getting more health and having health fountains in the game. That's the thing. The very first tier unlocks weapon terminals in the levels, so you can change your weapon whilst you're in the game. Then there's a health one that you can top up your health throughout the runs, and they're all pretty essential. The first runs of them are all the first level of each of the skill trees are. You need the basics. Important. Yeah, you need all of them at least, because without the health fountains, it's really hard. But they work out, and you can see everything at the start, so you don't need to unlock it to then see what's in the next one. You can see right away, so you can plot your journeys if you want. So you can see, okay, there's an extra life, and then there's a double extra life, and then there's an extra life with more health when you restart, when you respawn. So you think, okay, I might target that, or I might target this one. For me, I targeted the telekinesis powers, because that for me was, I prefer playing like that than the shooting side of it. That was more fun to me. So I was like, right, I'm not too bothered about the guns. Yeah, I just want to focus on getting the cool telekinesis powers, because that's the more fun stuff for me.
And they are permanent unlocks, those ones, right?
Once you unlock those, they are then permanent. You do collect throughout your runs. At the end of each level, you get a choice of upgrades, and it could be like something that at the end of every magazine you get a grenade, so your gun turns into a grenade launcher, or it could be that occasionally the enemies will explode on death. Or it'd just be something, there's some modifier that changes, and they
for that run specifically.
Yeah, and they add up. So if you do, I think there's 8 or 9 stages you have to do to complete a full run, and so by the end of it, you'll have these 8 perks that just all build on each other and stuff and get more and more complex. So by the end of each run, there's quite a broad selection of random modifiers. So by the end of the run, you'll have 8 of these applied, and you'll get quite powerful. And they all get lost at the end of the run. You also can you get currency, basically, these petals off leaves, and when people die, they drop them as well. So you collect these things, and then you can spend them to you can reload. You can spend them all on like reloading on your ammo or topping up your health, or some other bits and other things you can do with it and stuff. So, and they get lost on death as well. So the only thing that carries over on death is any kind of the skill points you unlocked for doing your cool shit, basically. But in the runs that I've done, every run that I've done, I've always unlocked I had like one mega run that I unlocked about 10 different things in one run. So it's pretty generous. If you can put a good run together, you can unlock quite a lot of stuff each run. So then when you then go back to the restart point where the hubs are and the skill trees are, you get quite a lot to spend. They're not too stingy with the points. I found that they've got the balance for me just right, and that you can unlock quite a lot of stuff to make your next run quite different or quite extra powered. And that for me, when I'm playing a roguelike, that's really important to me. I want to have that progression between runs. And even if you just do a run and you kill 5 people and then you die, you've still contributed, because it will start off, I think it's kill 30 people, the most basic enemies is the first thing, and then that then becomes kill 100 of those and then 300 of those. So you will just do that just naturally without even trying eventually. So there is always some progression. There is never a completely wasted run as long as you kill, I don't know, one person, I guess. It's you've achieved something towards that greater objective, which will give you a skill point, which will allow you to unlock pretty significant permanent buffs that change the game. And you start to unlock shotguns and grenade launchers and get all these telekinesis powers and the ability to throw enemies and lob back their grenades and stuff. So you become significantly more powerful as the game goes on. Now, of course,
you get to a point where you feel too powerful, though? Because the telekinesis ability that you just described, that sounds like, well, basically, just kill everything that's in front of you without worrying. Does it get to that point?
It does make because when you die, it's like, oh god, I got really far, I'm going to have to get back to that point again. But because you've got more powers now, the second time you go through the early levels, become an absolute breeze, and then it's fun because it's like you can just mow down enemies, you can just shoot them with your submachine gun or throw them off cliffs, and so it's just fun just because they just become like your playthings, and that's just fun to do. And you're kind of grinding through those levels, but they're just fun to do. And the game does mix it up though, so it does remix the levels. You're playing through the same levels, the same settings, the same sort of structural levels. So it doesn't remix the levels, but it does remix where you spawn into the level when you start it, and then where all the enemies spawn and come from. And also I've played levels where it completely changes the type of enemy, and I won't spoil it, but there is other different types of enemies in the starting point, and you expect it to be quite just full of easy level 1 enemies, and it might just mix it up unexpectedly, and the entire level is all these much harder enemies that are much harder to deal with, that just totally catches you out. So it just does keep you on your toes. But then the rewards for killing those is higher. So you think, okay, if I'm going to have to grind for these levels, at least now I'm getting more of a reward for doing it. And if it changes the enemies in it, it really does change how you go through the levels, because the enemies that it throws at you do mix things up a bit and do change how you have to approach the levels and different scenarios and stuff.
And I suppose that's where the other kind of main game kind of mechanic in aim comes from as well, because you've got your ranking for each level. So obviously, kind of where I've been sitting, I've always kind of ended up like at C or something, because I'm not getting through these levels fast, but I'm getting through them. But I'm probably being a bit more kind of, usually I'm very, very gung-ho, but for some reason when I'm playing this, I take my time and I'm like plotting out because I don't want to die. I'm just trying to make sure I'm taking everyone out, so do it quite slowly and not getting the great ranking for each level, which then increases the rewards you're getting per level. So as you're kind of overpowering, that should make it easier to actually up that rank and kind of get whether your S ranks or your A rank.
Yeah, it becomes more like a speed run to just get that S rank and just get through things as quickly as possible. And it does become, a level that might take you 10 minutes the first time around, so you can clear it in a minute or two once you've got some extra powers under your belt. And so I've never had a roguelike game where the runs evolve so dramatically. I think of things like Hades. They do have permanent upgrades, but it takes a lot of time you have to put into it before you start to get stuff. Whereas this is much more immediate, which kind of works with that VR setting where you don't want to put 100 hours into it, or you're not going to be spending that long on it because it's the nature of the medium. I think I've heard Endreams say that it takes their playtesters. It's taken them about 10 hours to complete 3-4 runs, and to see the full game, you complete the game, you complete a full run, and you get the first bit of story. Then you have to complete the second run on medium difficulty, and then a third run on hard difficulty. So it gets progressively harder, and each time you complete it, it will dole out more. You'll see more of the story until you get a full picture after 3 runs. Now, I've not managed to finish 3-4 runs, so I can't speak. I don't want to comment on the story and how well it nails the landing, which obviously is going to be a key part of it. So, full disclaimer there, I can't speak to as someone that's just finished the game, but I will say from what I've played, the several hours that I played to start off with, I'm really enjoying it. I think the gun mechanics, the shooting mechanics are the best I've played in VR. I find it so much easier to pick out a target as far away and hit the target with this in ways that I always really struggle with other shooting games like I can't think of the name of it now. What's that World War II gun shooting one? The Light Brigade? Yeah, the Light Brigade. That I've got awful with that. And it's a similar kind of feel to this, but this in Synapse, it's just I find it much more satisfying to shoot things.
I think it's good, and is it in the pistol? Like I thought when I got the machine gun, I'm like, I'm going to much prefer this, but then I found myself going back to the pistol because it had the laser sight. Whereas the machine gun, I struggled with the machine gun more because it was just like, it was probably quite realistic in terms of it was kind of giving you that whole like kind of feedback and moving as you were firing it. Whereas at least for that, I found myself much preferring the pistol, from that whole aim perspective. Yeah,
I'm all about the machine gun. I love that. I'll send you. I can share some of my videos of me playing it, my gameplay videos. It's just with the pistol, just running around. It's great. And that's what I mean. When you get good at it, and you can just run around at speed, and just the combination of one hand picking people up and throwing them, and the other hand shooting someone else at the same time, you feel so cool. In terms of our kind of scales about it, the vomit factor, I've not had any. I'm probably waste time asking me now because nothing seems to make me feel sick. But I think
he's immune.
Ben, I'm guessing you may do playing this. I don't know. Does it made you feel any reaction in the time you have played it?
I've managed about half an hour at a time before starting to feel the first pangs of queasiness.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You see, because the run can take over an hour to do each run, so I can see that might be.
I suppose it's actually a good point to mention actually that you can save mid-run, so like it will take you to the start of each. You don't need to do a full run like in one sitting. It will take you to the start of each level that you get to. You've got a save point at basically each portal, so it's there are save points here, so you're not having to do it all in one long run. You can kind of just progress at a level at a time if that's how you want to play it, or you can take breaks and split it up a bit, which is good.
And the comfort settings, they are decent. I think you can adjust the vignette intensity, snap turning. So it's, they're taking that stuff into consideration. So it's pretty good on that front.
In terms of the Grumpy Old Man scale as well, we had a question on our Discord about room scale versus standing and sitting. I don't think this is a game that would work very well for sitting. I think the way I play it, I'm constantly looking around and people are spawning in behind you, so they're constantly having to look around. The 3D audio, I should add, is great on this, being able to hear where people are and coming at you, because they're very vertical levels. They're very kind of maze-like, really reminding me of like a GoldenEye deathmatch level. some of the structures you're trying to clear enemies in. But
you've just reminded me, sorry, so if you do hear someone spawning behind you, what do?
Turn around,
like instinctively. Do you like turn around, like physically turn
Yeah.
around, or do you like snap turn around?
Well, in this, because speed is of the essence, I will turn around. I'll try and keep my feet planted, and I'll twist my body around and shoot them. Probably doing my back no favours, but
No, that's what
good to know.
That's what I would
this
do
is a
as
game.
well. But all I was going to say is I think that's one of the other accessibility settings, though, that you can change it so the turning can be done with the controller rather with the headset. So I think if you were wanting to sit and play, then that's probably the setting you were going, so you weren't trying to twist. So I do think you could play it seated. I think it's just as you say, Laurie, for your play style, you probably would never choose to, but I don't think there would be any issue if you want to play it seated. You could. It would be more than playable in a seated position. It just people.
Do you not think the speed of? I suppose if you could just snap and turn.
Not if you change the setting, no, because I think
yeah, fair point. But yeah, in terms of the room scale, I can't see you need it because you have to move around so much, move around with the sticks. Room scale. You can move around your room and duck down behind things, but I think you'd be smashing up your room really quickly if you were doing that. I feel like I need to stay planted on the spot because there's been a few times I've had to hit the pass through mode to sort of see where I am, because I have moved around in my room without meaning to. So if you were playing it where you think you had the freedom to move around within 2 meters, I mean the arenas are much bigger than that, so it was not enough room. So I think you'd end up just keep hitting the edges and the edges of your space all the time, and you sort of break the immersion. But try it, I suppose. For me, it's a standing game. It seems to be the best in. But yeah, in terms of the grumpy old man, it's not. It's quite an intense game. You're gonna want to. I don't know. It's not a sort of sit down on your sofa, sit back and put your feet up kind of thing. It's more of a engaged game. In terms of our wow factor, for me, it's got the wow factor just for that telekinesis. The eye tracking is amazing. There's that lovely video of you, Ben, where you played it and you just looked at the crates and you picked those up and flick those with your hand. It is a real VR wow moment, I think, for me.
I think it's one of my most wow moments in VR so far. Just doing that. So definitely strong.
I think particularly when you get better at it, I think the more you start to be able to land them on top of them and stuff like that, and you feel like like
when you get it and you slam it down on someone, it's so funny. Yeah, slightly sadistic and makes me sound quite insane there. I appreciate, but there you go. That's what it is. And in terms of is it a decent game, for me, I think this is the most polished kind of AAA style game. It's kind of up there for me with GTA in terms of the kind of level of sort of fidelity and the voice acting and the mechanics of it. I think it's a really, really strong game in its own right, and obviously being in VR gives you the power to do things like that telekinesis that I've talked about a lot. I think it's not just a gimmick. I think it is a really good game. I think they've got the skill tree, the unlocks, the way that the runs evolve over time to stay interesting. I think they've nailed those roguelike mechanics.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this is a game that really shines and is finally something that really shows off the power of the headset, like all of the different bits of the headset, like it pulls it all together. You can tell it's been built from the ground up for VR2. Certainly, I'm saying you can tell, we wouldn't know because we're just assuming like we've not got any experience of anything else, but it certainly feels like it's utilising every bit of it.
Yeah, haptics are great. The load times are non-existent. Yeah, for me, it's a really strong entry into the PSVR2's lineup, and I hope it does very well.